Welcome to Sociology Visualized. In social science research, knowledge is not discovered accidentally, it is systematically constructed through carefully defined intellectual tools. Among these, research questions, objectives, and hypotheses constitute the core architecture of inquiry. They translate abstract curiosity into methodologically guided investigation. From a philosophical standpoint, these elements reflect the transition from ontology, what exists, to epistemology, how we know it. And finally to methodology, how we study it. A research question emerges from theoretical and empirical gaps. Objectives operationalize the inquiry into achievable components. A hypothesis provides a provisional explanation grounded in theory. Thus, these are not merely technical steps, they are epistemic instruments shaping knowledge production. Research questions, problematizing social reality. Conceptual definition. A research question is not simply a query. It is a problematization of reality. It identifies a gap, contradiction, or unexplained phenomenon within existing knowledge. Drawing from the tradition of Michel Foucault, research questions can be seen as part of a discursive formation. They define what can be asked, studied, and known within a particular intellectual context. Sources of research questions. 1. Theoretical gaps. Unresolved debates in classical or contemporary theory. Example, tension between structure and agency. 2. Empirical anomalies. Observations that contradict established theory. 3. Policy and social relevance. Issues arising from governance, inequality, or development. 4. Everyday social experience. Lived realities that demand sociological explanation. Types of research questions, advanced classification. Exploratory questions. Used in under-researched areas, often qualitative. Descriptive questions. Aim to map patterns and distributions. Explanatory questions. Seek causal relationships. Critical questions. Challenge power structures and dominant ideologies, inspired by thinkers like Karl Marx. Interpretive questions. Focus on meaning-making, linked to Max Weber and Verstehen tradition. Characteristics of a strong research question. Conceptually grounded, linked to theory. Operationalizable, can be translated into variables or themes. Ethically viable. Context-sensitive. Illustration. Rather than asking, why are poor people poor? Vague, moralistic. A sociologically refined question would be, how do structural inequalities in education and labor markets reproduce poverty among scheduled castes in urban India? Research objectives, operationalizing the inquiry. Conceptual role. Research objectives function as the analytical bridge between abstract questions and empirical investigation. They decompose a broad inquiry into logically ordered, empirically tractable components. Theoretical significance. Objectives are closely linked to the idea of operationalization, a key concept in positivist methodology, but they are equally relevant in interpretive research where they guide thematic exploration. Types of objectives, expanded framework. 1. General objective. Reflects the overarching aim. Often mirrors the research question. 2. Specific objectives. Break down the general aim into analytical units. 3. Analytical objectives. Focus on identifying relationships between variables. 4. Normative objectives. Evaluate policies or interventions. 5. Comparative objectives. Compare across groups, regions, or time periods. Example, advanced. Research question. How does neoliberal economic reform affect informal labor in India? Objectives. 1. To examine changes in employment patterns post-liberalization. 2. To analyze the precarity of informal labor. 3. To assess the role of state policy in labor regulation. 4. To compare urban and rural labor dynamics. Objectives and methodological alignment. Quantitative research objectives focus on measurement and correlation. Qualitative research objectives focus on meaning, experience, and interpretation. SMART criteria revisited, critical perspective. While SMART objectives are widely used, critical sociologists argue that not all meaningful research is measurable. Some phenomena require interpretive depth rather than quantification. Thus, objectives must be methodologically appropriate, not mechanically structured. Hypotheses, the logic of provisional explanation. Conceptual definition. A hypothesis is a logically derived, empirically testable proposition about the relationship between variables. It is central to deductive reasoning, where theory precedes observation. Philosophical context. In positivism, associated with Auguste Comte, hypotheses are essential for scientific rigor. In post-positivist and interpretive traditions, hypotheses may be replaced by sensitizing concepts. Structure of a hypothesis. A typical hypothesis includes independent variable, 4. Dependent variable, dV. Expected relationship. Example: higher educational attainment, for leads to greater occupational mobility, dV. Types of hypotheses, advanced classification. 1. Null hypothesis, H. No relationship, basis for statistical testing. 2. Alternative hypothesis, H. Indicates presence of relationship. 3. Causal hypothesis. Specifies cause-effect relationship. 4. Associative hypothesis. Indicates correlation, not causation. 5. Complex hypothesis. Involves multiple variables. 6. Working hypothesis. Tentative, used in exploratory research. Hypothesis and theory. A hypothesis is not random, it is derived from theory. For example, from Emile Durkheim's theory of social integration. Hypothesis: lower social integration increases suicide rates. Criteria of a robust hypothesis. Falsifiability, inspired by Karl Popper. Logical consistency. Empirical testability. Theoretical relevance. Interrelationship, a logical sequence of inquiry. These three components form a hierarchical and sequential structure. 1. Research question identifies the problem. 2. Objectives decompose the problem. 3. Hypothesis predicts relationships. Integrated example, advanced. Topic: digital inequality. Research question. How does digital access shape educational outcomes among marginalized communities? Objectives. 1. To analyze access to digital resources. 2. To examine disparities in online learning. 3. To evaluate institutional support systems. Hypothesis. Limited digital access negatively impacts educational performance among marginalized groups. Methodological variations across paradigms. Positivist approach. Clear hypotheses. Quantifiable variables. Statistical testing. Interpretive approach. Open-ended questions. Flexible objectives. No rigid hypotheses. Critical approach. Normative questions. Transformative objectives. Hypotheses linked to power and ideology. Common conceptual confusions. Treating research questions as hypotheses. Writing objectives as vague intentions. Assuming all research must have hypotheses. Ignoring theoretical grounding. Conclusion: structuring knowledge production. Hypotheses, research questions, and objectives are not merely procedural steps. They are intellectual devices that shape the very nature of knowledge. They determine what is studied, how it is studied, what counts as valid knowledge. In sociology, where reality is layered, contested, and dynamic, mastering these tools enables researchers to move from everyday observation to scientific explanation, and from description to critical understanding. If you found this lecture helpful, do like, subscribe and share this video. Thank you.